how connected they are. Quite literally, our sister Shireen was murdered. She was literally assassinated. A sniper literally shot her as she was covering as a news representative, wearing a press vest and a helmet. And she was killed. That's crazy. Am I the only one that's outraged and like shocked that nobody, New York Times, what was New York Times headlines? That was AP. Who has New York Times headlines in their hand? That's AP, that's BBC, that's CNN. Okay, we'll start with CNN. Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh shot and killed in the West Bank. Shot and killed by who? Why? That's wild. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! 1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4! We don't want your bloody war! We don't want your bloody war! 5, 6, 7, 8! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a terrorist state! 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 1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4! Open up the prison doors! Open up the prison doors! 5, 6, 7, 8! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a racist state! Israel is a racist state! What does that mean, that Israel is a racist state? Don't stop recording, please record this too. Yeah, I'm showing. What does it mean? That's not just a soundbite. That's not just a soundbite. When we say Israel is a racist state, we say that Israel has an apartheid system based on identity. Your identity dictates where you stand in the society. It's that simple. When two people of different types, however you want to mix it up, get treated differently based on their identity, and one is a second-class citizen, third-class otherwise, that's apartheid. 1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4! Open up the prison doors! Open up the prison doors! 5, 6, 7, 8! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a terrorist state! Israel is a terrorist state! Israel, you can't hide! Israel, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! Israel, you can't hide! Israel, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! Justice for Shireen! Justice for Shireen! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Justice for Shireen! Justice for Shireen! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From Jenin to Gaza! From Jenin to Gaza! Globalize the Intifada! Globalize the Intifada! From Jenin to Gaza! From Jenin to Gaza! Globalize the Intifada! Globalize the Intifada! Shireen, our journalist! Shireen, our journalist! Killed by IOF terrorists! Killed by IOF terrorists! Shireen, our journalist! Shireen, our journalist! Killed by IOF terrorists! Killed by IOF terrorists! Israel, we see you! Israel, we see you! You kill press too! You kill press too! Israel, we see you! Israel, we see you! You kill our journalists too! You kill our journalists too! New York Times, you can't hide! New York Times, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! New York Times, you can't hide! New York Times, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! Assalamu alaikum.
Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Long live 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 the Intifada!
Long live Intifada!
Intifada! Intifada!
Intifada! Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Long live Intifada!
Intifada! Intifada!
Intifada! Intifada!
New York Times, you can't hide!
New York Times, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
New York Times, you can't hide!
New York Times, you charge you with genocide.
CNN, you can't hide.
CNN, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
CNN, you can't hide.
CNN, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First and foremost, I would like to thank you all for being here today on this vigil and rally organized by Al Auda New York, the Palestine Right to Return Coalition, American Muslims for Palestine, the Palestinian Youth Movement, and CUNY for Palestine, and many more solidarity organizations standing with us on this day of rage. Thank you for being us here on this day of rage, but not just a day of rage, a day where we can channel this rage, where we can channel our mourning and anger into collective organizing and forms of resistance against the Zionist entity and its supporters. Because we know that, especially considering recent events, only resistance by any means necessary is the solution to a full liberated Palestine. We are here today on this memorial, remembering and honoring our hero and a role model to many Palestinians, our martyr, Shireen Abu Akleh, who was a Palestinian like you and many other people here. And she was targeted for spreading awareness. She was silenced for exposing Zionist war crimes. And she was specifically targeted for carrying one of the strongest weapons anyone can carry, a camera. A camera that she used to resist against the Zionist colonizing forces. A camera that she used to amplify her voice and the voices of many other Palestinians in Palestine. It's her voice that must forever be amplified. Not just Shireen, but many people before her. Many people before her who she witnessed and reported. Shireen, she obtained the crown title, a martyr. And it's ironic because she spent her entire life close to death. She spent her entire life witnessing martyrdom. And now that we witnessed her martyrdom, it's up to us to do what she would have done. It's up to us to be here in the streets and demand justice. It's up to us to amplify her voice to the entire world. And that is why we're here today in front of the New York Times office. Because they tried to silence us, they tried to censor us, and they have the audacity to say Palestinians such as Shireen died without saying who killed Shireen. They have the audacity to say these are clashes, but these are not clashes. We know that these are settler colonialism. We know that this is genocide and ethnic cleansing. It is nothing more than that. It is Zionist terrorism. It is Palestinian genocide that is taking place. It is our Nakba that is taking place, that is ongoing to this date, where millions of Palestinians are displaced and ethnically cleansed. So we say that the New York Times are directly complicit and responsible for Shireen's death and for the Palestinian genocide as they continue to report false claims of Palestine and as they continue to uplift the Zionist narrative that is killing our people. And this is not the first time journalists were targeted in Palestine, and it won't be the last time. We've seen this last May, where the occupation forces bombed. They literally bombed and destroyed Al Jazeera media outlets and AMP news outlets in Gaza. Shireen was on the front line. She was a frontline journalist, putting her life on the line. But she was not just a frontline journalist. She was a frontline freedom fighter defending her land. She was a frontline freedom fighter defending Palestine and resisting Zionist colonialism. Although she never held a gun, she was able to fire bullets and threaten the entire Zionist entity through her journalism career. And that is why we are here today, to honor her and remember who she was. We are here today to honor her career. So let's keep each other safe here today. And just as they keep each other safe in Palestine, we are here. Look around who you're standing with. These are your comrades. Just as Shireen loved humanity, that is why she chose her journalism career, to stay close to humanity. We must love each other too, because we know that only by loving your brother, sister, and sibling will we free Palestine through love and unity. Thank you. Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
And from the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
Intifada, Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada.
احنا صوت الانتفاضة.
احنا صوت الانتفاضة.
انتفاضة، انتفاضة.
انتفاضة، انتفاضة.
نحن صوت الانتفاضة.
احنا صوت الانتفاضة.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
All right, my name is Wasim. I'm the vice chairman of AMP, American Muslims for Palestine, New Jersey chapter. You know, one thing is, these gatherings are always difficult, right? Because we get into chanting and we get into collective unity. And then, like I said before, it's balanced with all the emotions that we just feel. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like somebody died, someone was murdered. And by the way, if you're listening to what I said before, I was looking for the New York Times headline in relation to her murder. And it says that she dies at 51. That is outrageous. That is unacceptable. I hope that somebody in the New York Times staff with a heart, with a mind, stops to think, phrasing that in that way about any individual. Ask yourself, is that humane? Because the thing is, it's not just Palestinians. You know what I mean? So, we talk about the black struggle in the United States. We talk about the devaluing of life as a norm. The way you talk about somebody dying. I just said dying. Being murdered. I'm up here and I just used the word dying. That's wild. That's how ingrained it is in us. And that's why actively unlearning and growing and just becoming a better person is required. I was on the way here and I was thinking to myself, and some people, it's like, I just mean well. I respect it, but sometimes it's just not enough. You meaning well, it's just not enough. When people are being murdered, when people are being oppressed, it's just not enough. We need much more than that. So I want to talk about our sister who was murdered, Shireen Abu Akleh, who was born in Quds in 1971. Alright, so I was supposed to do this from the start, but I came up to say something before that, and I got into that whole rant and forgot to say what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is, feel your emotions, it's okay. So if I feel my emotions while I speak, forgive me. Shireen worked most famously as an Al Jazeera journalist, but she also worked for Radio Monte Carlo, Voice of Palestine, UNRWA, Amman satellite channel, and a channel called Miftah. So we all know about Shireen and her tenure at Al Jazeera, growing up, watching it with our parents, maybe not understanding, but understanding the faces at minimum. In 1997, she began working as a journalist for Al Jazeera as one of their first field correspondents, becoming well known as a reporter on their Arabic channel. She often reported on funerals for Palestinian shuhada. She was the first Arab journalist allowed into Ashkelon prison in 2005 to interview incarcerated Palestinian prisoners. So, what is she? She's a trailblazer. This New York Times headline, Shireen Abu Akleh, a trailblazing Palestinian journalist, dies at 51. You know what this person would tell me? But I really do care. You know what I mean? Like, I care, but that's just not enough. We're not just talking about her and her life, we're talking about her and her murder. And so we celebrate her life and we have anger about her murder. Today, as the occupation forces brutally attacked Palestinian mourners, church bells rang out across Al-Quds, Jerusalem, the capital of Palestine, in a demonstration of love, respect, and grief for the murdered Shireen Abu Akleh. She's quoted as saying, "I chose journalism to be close to the people. It might not be easy to change the reality, but at least I could bring their voice to the world." Everybody, I don't, like, how do you say it? Everybody saw those videos that came out of Palestine today in Jerusalem?
Yes.
You know what I mean? quick plug. At AM Palestine, our national organization on Instagram, their page. Just look at the photo, an AP photo of one still shot, and tell me a picture is not worth a million words. Just one still shot of the entire situation, and it just speaks volume. Absolute volume. So, I appreciate everybody coming out. Do we know what this weekend is?
Yes.
This weekend is the 74th commemoration of the institutionalization of the Nakba. The institutionalization of the Nakba on an international stage, that's what it is. It's not the 74th anniversary of the Nakba for the Palestinian people that started before. And so this weekend, share your posts, share information, very important. Share information, please. But also get active. Go to a rally. Be loud. Be heard. Show love. Fight. Because she fought for endless Palestinians, and I promise you, I'm gonna fight for her.
Free Palestine! Free! بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالدم نفديك يا شيرين
بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم
نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين. Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
When do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
If we don't get it!
Shut it down!
If we don't get it!
Shut it down!
If we don't get it!
Shut it down!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
If we don't get it!
Shut it down!
If we don't get it!
Shut it down!
If we don't get it!
Shut it down!
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, a journalist!
Killed by terrorists!
Killed by terrorists!
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, a journalist!
Killed by terrorists!
Killed by terrorists!
Israel, we see you!
Israel, we see you!
You kill our press too!
You kill our press too!
Israel, we see you!
Israel, we see you!
You kill our press too!
You kill our press too!
Israel, you can't hide!
Israel, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
Israel, you can't hide!
Israel, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Palestine will be free.
New York City, you will see.
New York City, you will see.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
New York City, you will see.
New York City, you will see.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
New York City, you will learn.
New York City, you will learn.
Refugees will return.
Refugees will return.
New York City, you will learn.
New York City, you will learn.
Refugees will return.
Refugees will return.
Just keep chanting. I'll tell.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
From Jenin to Gaza!
From Jenin to Gaza.
Long live Intifada!
Long live the Intifada.
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, our journalist.
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, our journalist.
Killed by terrorists!
Killed by terrorists.
Killed by Zionists!
Killed by Zionists.
Killed by Zionists!
Killed by Zionists.
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, our journalist.
Killed by Zionists!
Killed by Zionists.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
When journalists are under attack,
When journalists are under attack,
what do we do?
stand up, fight back.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When journalists are under attack,
When journalists are under attack,
what do we do?
stand up, fight back.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
ومن نيويورك لجنين
من نيويورك لجنين
يرحم روحك يا شيرين.
يرحم روحك يا شيرين.
ومن نيويورك لجنين
ومن نيويورك لجنين
يرحم روحك يا شيرين.
يرحم روحك يا شيرين.
يا شيرين يا شيرين
يا شيرين يا شيرين.
دمك دم الملايين.
دمك دم الملايين.
يا شيرين يا شيرين
يا شيرين يا شيرين.
دمك دم الملايين.
دمك دم الملايين.
وحدة وحدة وطنية
وحدة وحدة وطنية.
إسلام ومسيحية.
إسلام ومسيحية.
وحدة وحدة وطنية
وحدة وحدة وطنية.
إسلام ومسيحية.
إسلام ومسيحية.
ولا إله إلا الله
ولا إله إلا الله.
والشاهد حبيب الله.
والشاهد حبيب الله.
لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله.
والشاهد حبيب الله.
والشاهد حبيب الله.
ارفع ايدك وعلي
ارفع ايدك وعلي.
الموت ولا المذلة. ارفع ايدك وعلي
ارفع ايدك وعلي.
الموت ولا المذلة.
الموت ولا المذلة.
قولوا الله قولوا الله.
قولوا الله قولوا الله.
هالشيرين مو حي الله.
شيرين وحي الله.
شيرين was a journalist
Shireen was a journalist.
killed by a terrorist.
Killed by a terrorist.
Shireen is a journalist
Shireen is a journalist.
killed by a terrorist.
Killed by a terrorist.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
I'd like to introduce our next speaker from CUNY for Palestine, Musabiko.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Musabaqa. I'm a member of Al-Auda New York and CUNY for Palestine. CUNY for Palestine is a coalition of CUNY students, professors, faculty, and staff who have joined together to make sure that Zionism gets out of CUNY and that all of CUNY is committed to the liberation of Palestine. As we know, we're here today to commemorate the honorable journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. They can kill our journalists. They can kill our people. but they can never kill the truth. They cannot kill our cause for justice. That's what Shireen was to so many people in and out of Palestine. A truth teller, a real journalist. And yes, I'm saying real to contrast her to the people inside these buildings and all over New York, who are not just cowards, they're not just hypocrites, they're complicit, like their predecessors have been for centuries, in mainstream press in the United States, complicit in empire. Shireen Abu Akleh was born in Al-Quds in 1971. And because they won't say it, we will. She did not merely pass away this week. Shireen Abu Akleh was shot in the head, in a gap in her helmet, while covering a Zionist raid on a camp in Jenin. She was shot in the head by Zionist colonizing, occupying forces. And we will never shy away from saying that. Shireen was a journalist, and not all of us are. But how can we continue her legacy? Not just in journalism, not just in academia where I work, and in our college and in our classrooms where many of us are from. We can do that by being completely unapologetic in our commitment to Palestinian liberation. Today we don't say that we're here to ask the New York Times nicely to uplift the Palestinian cause. We're here to hold them accountable for their complicity. We're here to hold this country and the fake Zionist colonial entity called Israel accountable for its targeting, murdering of journalists, its control of information that every colonizer entity has used to maintain their control. Again, I'm Musabaka Nabiha from CUNY for Palestine. We're a coalition working in CUNY to make sure that the Palestinian liberation cause is uplifted in CUNY and all over New York and all over the world. Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
I forgot to mention one thing, which is that the CUNY School of Journalism is right here on this block, right near the New York Times. CUNY, a public interest school, right? The most heavily attended minority school, one of the most in the United States. A public university who is supposed to be churning out the future leaders of tomorrow. Where does CUNY fit into all of this? CUNY invests millions of dollars into weapons contractors, into technology companies that help Israel not only surveil Palestinian freedom fighters, but also very specifically control the kind of information that Shireen gave her life to get out to the world. They invest in the kinds of weapon companies that give bullets to Israel, bullets that end up in the heads and the chests of Palestinian journalists. And meanwhile, whenever we try to hold them accountable, they hit us with their fake objectivity. Well, guess where CUNY leadership was just this past week? 12 CUNY officials, including the CUNY chancellor, including many CUNY deans and presidents of undergraduate colleges, visited Israel to so-called build bridges. To build bridges. Build bridges with the people who kill our people. So we reject their false objectivity. We reject the notion that they're the true arbiters of truth and of justice. We know that's not true. We're not so-called neutral. We're not so-called objective. Yes, we are on a side. We're on the side of truth and justice. CUNY, you will see.
CUNY, you will see.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
New York City, you will see.
New York City, you will see.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
One more time. New York City, you will see.
New York City, you will see.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
Shit. One of the most basic ones, throwback, OG. And I still love it, to be honest, because it still rings true till today. Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel. Not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel. Not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Free, free Palestine.
Free. Free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free. Free. Free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free. Free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free. Free. Free Palestine.
I'd like to invite next to speak. Oh, thank you. Damn, nobody else can look me out? They're just looking at me with it upside down. Someone go like this, for the record. Next, I'd like to invite Rabbi Cohen to speak.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Rabbi Joseph Cohen with the Turek Heart International, Jews United Against Zionism. We Jews are here with a broken heart to commemorate the loss of life of the great honorable journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was shot dead on her job as a journalist covering the Zionist attack on Jenin, the Zionist occupation, who was afraid of the truth that Shireen was exposing, killed her in cold blood, tragically ending her life. We are here.
Just move over a little bit so we can turn up the sound. Okay. Thank you.
We are here to mourn Shireen's loss of life and to condemn this crime against humanity. Unfortunately, Shireen was only the latest victim of the Zionist occupation in Palestine that started 74 years ago with the creation of the State of Israel, a state that calls itself Jewish. How dare they use my religion to justify their crimes? Everything Israel stands for is contrary to Judaism. According to the Torah, Jews should not have their own sovereignty at all, let alone creating a state by destroying another people's existence and livelihood in their own land is completely in violation of Jewish law. The state of Israel and all their actions do not represent Jews or Jewishness. We share the world's outcry and grief. We are all pained and saddened for the loss of life of this honorable journalist. And we send our condolences to Shireen's family and friends. And we stand united with Palestine. The Zionist occupation has to end, and all rights return to the Palestinians. The right to return and a free Palestine. Justice for Shireen.
Justice for Shireen.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Justice for Shireen.
Justice for Shireen.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Thank you very much.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
No justice, no peace! complicity in what is going on in Palestine. So we are gathered here today in front of the New York Times building to expose their complicity in Israeli colonial violence, murder, and systemic targeting of Palestinians. Most recently, the murder of our Palestinian national hero and journalist, Shireen Abu Akleh. She was murdered by Zionist colonial agents. She was shot in the head, in the gap in her helmet, next to her ears. But look at how the New York Times and other Zionist outlets, BBC and CNN and Associated Press, the so-called objective press, they covered her murder. They refuse to name Zionist colonizers as their national hero. And journalists, how do I clear? What is this? What is this? She was shot, but we know that Israel deliberately targets our people who are on the front lines of exposing and documenting Zionist colonial crimes. They're putting themselves on the front lines every single day. There's so many faces here today who grew up seeing Shireen on their television for 25 years and more. By refusing to name Shireen's murderers as the terrorist colonial state of Israel, as they often do with Palestinians, whether they're in Al-Quds or they're in Gaza or Jenin, the New York Times and all other mainstream Zionist outlets, they are complicit. And these media outlets, they give cover and they protect and they amplify Zionist murderers, and they enable the ongoing genocide and ethnic cleansing and colonial settlement of Palestinian people and land. This is nothing new for Western media or academia. We demand that all outlets and the press immediately, they stop giving cover and they stop using the passive voice or erasing the Zionist colonization. That they stop erasing the Zionist colonization as the perpetrator of abuse, torture, and murder on Palestinians. We also call upon all Zionist outlets to boycott all Israeli and Zionist press and sources. These Western journalists and media outlets, by refusing to name Israel and its actions, they are directly responsible for facilitating the ongoing impunity of Israeli forces and settler agents of colonization, and thereby they're also facilitating these crimes. Enough is enough!
Yes!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, our journalist!
Killed by terrorists!
Killed by terrorists!
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, our journalist!
Killed by terrorists!
Killed by terrorists!
We gotta get louder than that! Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, our journalist!
Killed by terrorists!
Killed by terrorists!
New York Times, you can hide!
New York Times, you can hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
CNN, you can hide!
CNN, you can hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
BBC, you can hide!
BBC, you can hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
New York Times, you can hide!
New York Times, you can hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Free!
Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
انتفاضة انتفاضة
انتفاضة انتفاضة!
نحن صوت الانتفاضة
احنا صوت الانتفاضة!
انتفاضة انتفاضة
انتفاضة انتفاضة!
globalize the انتفاضة
Globalize the انتفاضة!
انتفاضة انتفاضة
انتفاضة انتفاضة!
نحن صوت الانتفاضة
احنا صوت الانتفاضة!
ونحن صوت الانتفاضة
احنا صوت الانتفاضة!
ومن المياه للمياه
من المياه للمياه!
فلسطين عربية
فلسطين عربية!
ومن المياه للمياه
من المياه للمياه!
Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free
Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free! 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 Free Palestine!
This right here is evidence that Shireen's legacy will forever live on in the hearts of every Palestinian and every revolutionary and every freedom fighter. Algeria, Palestine!
Algeria, Palestine!
Algeria, Palestine!
Algeria, Palestine!
Brother, 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 to the time!
Brother, brother, to the time!
Algeria, Palestine!
Algeria, Palestine!
Stay together all the time!
Stay together all the time!
الجزائر فلسطين
الجزائر فلسطين!
اخوة اخوة ليوم الدين
أخوة أخوة يوم الدين!
الجزائر فلسطين
الجزائر فلسطين!
اخوة اخوة ليوم الدين
أخوة أخوة يوم الدين!
فلسطين فلسطين
فلسطين فلسطين!
ما بننساك ليوم الدين
ما ننساك يوم الدين!
فلسطين فلسطين
فلسطين فلسطين!
انت في قلبي الى يوم الدين
أنت في قلبي يوم الدين!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada, intifada!
Intifada, intifada!
Long live Intifada!
Long live Intifada!
I'd like to announce our next speaker from Black Alliance for Peace, Margaret Kimberly. Power to the people! Power to the people!
Power to the people!
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to see all your beautiful faces here. I'm Margaret Kimberly from Black Agenda Report and Black Alliance for Peace. This Wednesday morning, thank you. This Wednesday morning we had put our latest issue of Black Agenda Report to bed, but I got an email saying that a Palestinian journalist had been shot to death by the IDF. And we had to add to the issue that we thought we'd finish, and of course we did. We did have a link to the electronic Intifada story. This is a time for us to show solidarity. Solidarity with one another, solidarity with the Palestinian people who risk life just by living, just by going to their homes, just by going to work. Shireen died doing what I do. And the least I can do, the least all of us can do, is to be truthful, is to do what we can to tell the world about the apartheid state of Israel.
and about how our government supports it. It would not exist without the United States. It could change anytime the United States wanted it to change. But that is the nature of imperialism. So it is not enough. It's not enough to say free Palestine. Of course we do. It's not enough to condemn Shireen Abu Akleh's killing. We must be steadfast and resolute as we oppose U.S. imperialism and U.S. efforts at hegemony all over the world. Israel is not the only beneficiary. This week we have seen $40 billion of our money going to prop up a fascist state in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, in other words. While we're told we can't have anything. Anything for the people costs too much, it's impossible, no can do. The so-called progressives, the squad, etc., say nothing. They go along with it. So we depend upon ourselves. We depend upon sustaining and growing a mass movement. Black Alliance for Peace, who I'm also affiliated with, is devoted, has as a principle of unity an anti-imperialist stance. And that is what we must all have. And the anti-imperialist stance cannot end at the borders of Palestine. It's a tall order, but none of us here are being shot at by the IDF, and that is the least that any of us can do. And I saw her funeral today. I saw the Israeli police beating the pallbearers who nearly dropped her coffin. They bravely managed to keep it from hitting the ground. I read that Muslims were not allowed in. She was a Christian. Muslims were not allowed into the funeral. Only Christians were allowed. It's raining harder. I'm going to bind it up now. But I also saw the outpouring of love, the outpouring of support for her and for her family. So I say as I finish, power to the people.
Power to the people!
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 Thank you.
Give me a sec. You want to hold this one? Thank you. I'm sorry, bro. I just don't know where to put it.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Israel, you will see!
Israel, you will see!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Israel, we see you!
Israel, we see you!
You kill our press too!
You kill our press too!
Israel, we see you!
Israel, we see you!
You kill our press too!
You kill our press too!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Israel, you can't hide!
Israel, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
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 Sorry, give me a second.
Please, take your time.
Thank you.
We are here for you.
No, I'm good. I just gotta find where I'm at real quick. Alright, cool. Sorry. بالراح بالدم نفديك يا فلسطين بالراح بالدم نفديك يا شهيد. So, we charge Israel with genocide simply because this death, this murder, this assassination is not a one-off. Far from it. This is the imprisonment, the murder of the free press, bro. That's wild. Of the free press.
And I'm going to read a poem by our sister, or for our sister. It was inspired by Hassan Kanafani's Do not die until you've become equal. And it goes, embraced by Jenin, by her dirt, her people and her skies. Before you, resistors, prisoners, martyrs were also embraced by Jenin. Embracing your soul today and declaring your martyrdom among the poor and the suffering and the resistors, martyrdom among those of you who were and for whom you lived. Let the church bells ring and the minarets call to prayer. As Christ ascended, you rose to apprise the heavens of the martyrs and prisoners of the wounded, the bereaved and orphaned, to appraise the martyrs that we are in lockstep, still keeping our oath. And to Jerusalem we draw closer. And as you were the voice of the defenseless on earth, we now be the voice of the martyrs. Now be the voice of the martyrs in the sky. In memory and honor of the martyr Shireen Abu Akleh. Woo! Yeah, human rights. Free Palestine. Let us hear you. Say it again. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine!
Now, the people in the back who were walking. Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Oh, maybe they left. Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
From the river to the
Where's Rokhaya?
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
1, 2, 3, 4!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Open up the prison door!
Open up the prison door!
5, 6, 7, 8!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a racist state!
Israel is a racist state!
1, 2, 3, 4!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
Israel is a terrorist state!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
1, 2, 3, 4!
1, 2, 3, 4!
We don't want your racist war!
We don't want your racist war!
5, 6, 7, 8!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
Israel is a terrorist state!
BBC, you can't hide!
BBC, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
New York Times, you can't hide!
New York Times, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
ومن نيويورك لجنين يرحم روحك يا شيرين
يرحم روحك يا شيرين!
ومن نيويورك لجنين يرحم روحك يا شيرين
يرحم روحك يا شيرين!
Shireen was a journalist
Shireen was a journalist!
killed by a terrorist
Killed by a terrorist!
Shireen was a journalist
Shireen was a journalist!
killed by a terrorist
Killed by a terrorist!
Israel, we know you
Israel, we know you!
You kill press and journalists too
You kill press and journalists too!
Israel, we know you
Israel, we know you!
You kill press and journalists too
You kill press and journalists too!
يا شيرين يا شيرين
يا شيرين يا شيرين!
دمك
دم الملايين يا شيرين يا شيرين دمك دم الملايين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا شيرين يا للعار يا للعار باعوا الشهداء بالدولار يا للعار يا للعار باعوا الشهداء بالدولار لا اله الا الله والشاهد حبيب الله لا اله الا الله والشاهد حبيب الله قولوا الله على الصوت ينحرر حياة بالموت.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Intifada, intifada!
Intifada, intifada!
احنا صوت الانتفاضة!
احنا صوت الانتفاضة!
انتفاضة، انتفاضة!
انتفاضة انتفاضة
احنا صوت الانتفاضة!
احنا صوت الانتفاضة. Okay, so I'd like to read the names of the journalists, not just Shireen, but many journalists before her, who were targeted and murdered in cold blood. These journalists, they were not just targeted for being journalists, but they were targeted for being Palestinian. They were targeted for doing what every Palestinian does: resist and resist and resist. They were targeted for exposing the Zionist war crimes and the entire Zionist entity for what it is. These journalists are the reason why we're here today. They are the reason why many people now are educated on what's going on in Palestine. These journalists are the reason why people no longer think that Israel is so-called the democracy of the Middle East, because we know that it is not the democracy of the Middle East. It is the Zionist regime of the Middle East. It is the reason why Middle East countries are suffering, because they have a role in what's going on in Palestine and across the Middle East. They are funding genocide, and they are the facilitators and the murderers of the Middle Easterners and the Palestinians in Palestine. So we say Israel out of the Middle East, and as long as that's not happening, there will not be peace, and there won't be justice until Israel is out of the Middle East. So, because of that, it's important for us, all of us, to be the new media. We cannot rely on Western journalism that is funded and fueled by imperialist ideologies. We cannot rely on them to explain what's going on in Palestine. We have to rely on who's on the field, our freedom fighters, our Palestinians, our voices. Those are the voices that must be amplified. And because of that, I'm going to read the names of some of the many martyrs who were journalists, who died doing what they love, who died spreading awareness, who died trying to free Palestine, and because of them, we will free Palestine. So, the names are Yasser. Wait, I would like a moment of silence actually while I read the names. So the names are Yasser Murtada, Sulaiman Abdul Rahim Al-Ashi, Ahmed Abu Hussein, عصام تلاوي، باسل إبراهيم فراج، فادل شنا، حسام سلامة، يوسف أبو حسين، علي شتاح أبو عفاش، نغلة محمود الحج، حمدي أياد، نور الدين مصطفى الدري، أحد عفيف زكوت، عماد أبو زهرة, and lastly our beacon of hope, Shireen Abu Akleh. Thank you. Free, free Palestine!
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 Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, a journalist!
Killed by Zionists!
Killed by Zionists!
Shireen, our journalist!
Shireen, a journalist!
Killed by Zionists!
Killed by Zionists!
Say her name!
Say her name! Shireen Abu Akleh!
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 Shireen
Shireen
Abu Akleh!
Abu Akleh!
Shireen Abu Akleh!
Shireen Abu Akleh!
From Jenin to Gaza,
From Jenin to Gaza,
long live the Intifada!
long live Intifada.
From Jenin to Gaza,
From Jenin to Gaza,
long live the Intifada!
long live Intifada.
Long live the Intifada!
Long live Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada.
Long live the Intifada!
Long live Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada.
From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine.
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine.
Long live the Intifada!
Long live Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada.
Long live the Intifada!
Long live Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
I'd like to... Hey, hey! Ho, ho! The occupation's got to go! Hey, hey! Keep going! Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
The occupation's got to go.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
The occupation's got to go. The occupation's got to go.
So, I'd like to invite next to speak from the Party of Socialism and Liberation, Hannah Craig.
Shireen Abu Akleh said, I chose journalism so I could be close to the people. She chose to be with, to tell the stories of people who face violence every day. People who are denied the right to health, to dignity, even to life by the Zionist regime, but who continue to struggle, to live, and to lead people's movements for liberation forward. In many ways, Shireen was the eyes and ears of the people. She brought stories to the community about what was happening in Palestine, what was happening to the people. What was her crime? Reporting, telling stories, telling the truth. This horrible tragedy, this Zionist attack came the day before Palestinian nurse and health activist Sata Odeh was sentenced to 16 months of prison and given a $9,000 fine by an Israeli military tribunal on May 12th. What was her crime? Providing health services. In addition to the prison sentence and fine, Sata was given a 5-year suspended sentence on the condition that she does not provide health services. And yesterday, Zionist occupation forces shot and killed Taya Khalil Mohammed Masla near Jabal al-Tawil in the city of Al-Birhe. Taya was 16 years old. He's the 10th Palestinian child to be fatally shot by Zionist forces in 2022. This is the kind of injustice that is taking place now. These are the stories that are being uncovered, the truth of injustice, of oppression and murder that brave journalists like Shireen brought to the people. These stories must be brought to the people to continue to fight back, to build international solidarity and to grow the movement to free Palestine. Statements released by Israeli officials and mainstream media like the New York Times that try to shift responsibility for her death away from Israeli forces are deplorable. Shireen Abu Akleh says it's not an anomaly nor accidental. It was targeted murder and it's nothing new. Israeli forces are reported to have killed 83 Palestinian reporters over the course of the last 50 years. Over 46 of those killings have happened since the start of the Second Intifada in 2000. Palestinian journalists have been reportedly targeted by the Israeli state, suffering judicial harassment and violence at the hands of Israeli forces. As the Party for Socialism and Liberation, we stand with the people of Palestine who continue to resist the violent Israeli apartheid regime and the brave journalists who put their lives on the line to tell their stories. Shireen said, "It may not be easy to change reality, but at least I can bring their voices to the world. Let's bring our voices to the world and let them ring out, condemning the New York Times and all of the other mainstream imperialist media for their refusal to acknowledge the truth of Zionist crimes, to condemn the brutal murder of journalists in their quest to bring stories to the people, to say, end all U.S. aid to Israel immediately. Let us be here, close to our people, standing together for a free Palestine, a liberated Palestine. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, 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 free Palestine! How you feeling?
Sad, very sad, very sad.
Thank you. Me too. And I'm angry. I'm sad and I'm angry. I feel a lot. And so, let the New York Times building hear you. Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free! Free complicit. And worse, to actively distort the facts is to aid in oppression, murder, and death. And so we charge you as accomplices for sealing the truth. Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
When we chant these chants, ask yourself, what do they mean? Why am I even saying it? And if you can't find the answer, then you have to spend some time thinking about it. Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
if we don't get it,
Shut it down!
if we don't get it,
Shut it down!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
if we don't get it,
Shut it down!
we don't get it.
shut it down.
No justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace!
no justice,
No peace!
justice for Shireen,
Justice for Shireen!
free, free Palestine,
Free! Free Palestine!
justice for Shireen,
Justice for Shireen!
free, free Palestine.
Free! Free Palestine!
I'd like to next introduce someone, I don't know if you're familiar with me, but someone who I'm very familiar with and helped lead the way to where we are in organizing for Palestine in New York City today. Everybody please put your hands together for Michael Letwin from Labor for Palestine and an organization that's dear to my heart, Jews for the Palestinian Right of Return. Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Justice for Shireen!
Justice for Shireen!
Free, free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Not another nickel! Not another dime! No more money for Israel's crimes!
No more money for Israel!
I hear you! Not another nickel! Not another dime!
Not another dime!
No more money for Israel's crimes!
No more money for Israel's crimes!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Brothers and sisters, I don't have to tell you that there's nothing accidental about the assassination of Shireen Abu Akleh. There's nothing accidental about the fact that the New York Times covered it up. There's nothing accidental about the attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque. There's nothing accidental about the murder of Gaza and Jenin and the West Bank entirely and all over historic Palestine. But from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free!
Thank you.
Very good.
I'd like to announce New York Times, New York Times,
New York Times! New York Times!
report all of Israel's war crimes.
New York Times! New York
like to introduce our next speaker. She is really... Okay, our next speaker is an honorable member of Al-Auda who is deeply committed to the Palestinian movement here and in Palestine, and I'd like to give it up to Lamis Siddiq.
You know, I know that nobody here needs to know. You're here because you know that the murder of Shireen Abu Akleh is not an anomaly, just as the murder and quotidien, the casual torture of our society by Zionist colonizers is not an anomaly, but part of the daily life and reality under Zionist colonization. We are here in the hopes that we can reach the hearts and the ears of the masses in New York, because although we do not have weapons and billions or trillions of dollars, we know that our strength and our power lies in you, that our strength and our power lies in the truth, that our strength and our power lies in the masses, united and organized, and always thinking of what can we do more and what can we do better, because freeing Palestine is not just for the Palestinians, though we deserve it. Freeing Palestine is protection and safety and precedent for the rest of the world. Where there is Israel, there is violence. Where there is Israel, there is exploitation. We saw Israel directly involved in the murder of 20,000 Guatemalans in Guatemala. We saw Israeli colonizing soldiers on the borders of Venezuela, teaching torture in El Salvador, teaching apartheid and giving nuclear weapons in South Africa. Israel is a global threat. Israel is a circumvention of popular democratic will. Israel is a circumvention of the global imperative toward democracy and peace and justice and safety. Israel threatens everybody. And the reason that Shireen was murdered is because she exposed for 20-somewhat years the disgusting nature, the violent nature, the evil nature of the Zionist colonizing entity. And this is the threat that she posed. So what do we say and what do we ask of you? Above all, every word, let us remember, is psychological and discursive. It is language. What is it that we're asking of the New York Times? We're asking them to cover, which means that all of us must start every sentence talking about the Zionist entity and all its agents, because that's what settlers are. They are agents of violence. They are agents of colonization, exposing them at the beginning of every sentence. Never ever apologizing for the Palestinian imperative to survive, to defeat, to expose and disempower and dismantle all institutions of Zionist colonization and supremacy, wherever they are, including in New York. We start with exposing them. We say and we join the Palestinian demand, which respectfully should be clear to everybody, which is de-Zionize, decolonize, liberation, and return to all of Palestine. And when we see Palestinians resisting and speaking out, whether in New York or in Palestine, we say that Palestinian resistance, just like Shireen, because remember folks, Shireen wasn't a journalist. Shireen knew that when she had the camera, when she spoke and said Zionist violence, that she was there to protect Palestinians. That's how direct your role is. That's how direct the discursive struggle is. She was a freedom fighter. She protected Palestinians. And she was loved. And she was loved. And she loved the Palestinian resistance. And she loved, as we love, Hamas and the PFLP and Islamic Jihad and the Quds forces. And no, we don't give material support, but we say they are global heroes of the fight against imperialism. They are global agents of world peace. They are global agents of progress and humanity. And so we ask that you keep this in mind. to live. The resistance, like Shireen, was an articulation of the Palestinian insistence on life and the right to life. So if we honor her memory, we do it thus. And we raise our fists unequivocally, and we say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And in honor of Shireen Abu Akleh, our national hero and international icon, we let the Zionist entity and all the Zionists here know, you did not shake us. You made us stronger with her murder. There will be 100 Shireens this year alone, and we count on all of you to carry her legacy and her voice. Justice, justice for Shireen!
Justice, justice for Shireen!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
We hope you will stay. We're going to make a march down to the Zionist mission and let them know they need to get out of New York. Blockade and sanction. Boycott. The New York Times is directly facilitating the genocide of Palestine daily, and they know what they're doing because their staff have children in the Zionist colonizing forces. We're going to march here in a bit, and I turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Well said.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
She's good.
Free Palestine!
You're gonna sit down now.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!